Follow along in this Adobe Animate tutorial and learn how to create a digital ad design meant for social media. In this lesson, I'll go over how to import a layered Adobe Illustrator design into Animate, use both classic and motion tweens, as well as export the project as a video or GIF file for social media use. As an added bonus, I'll go over how to add a button to direct users to a web page. So let's jump right into this lesson and start creating. Okay, let's start things off by creating a new document in Adobe Animate. You can go up to File, New, or just click the Create New button here. That'll bring up your new document window. From the selection up top, I want to choose Ads. Now you can choose Social if there's a size here that appeals to you. I'm going to choose Ads, and of course you can actually type in the width and height. So for instance, if it was an Instagram post, the size would be 1080 by 1080. I'm just going to choose this large rectangle ad here, which is 336 by 280. I want to ensure that the frame rate is 30 and the platform type is set to HTML5 canvas. Once you have those settings in place, go ahead and click Create. As mentioned previously, we'll be adding an Adobe Illustrator file into this Animate canvas. So if I go to Illustrator, here is the design, and they're all on separate layers here, so you can see all the objects and all the content in this design here I've placed on separate layers. Now this is important when you're importing it into Animate. It'll actually hold and maintain all those layers. It'll carry over from Illustrator to Animate. So this will be available to you. You can find the link in the description below where you can download this file. I'm going to go back to Animate, and to import an Illustrator file, you would go up to File, Import, and then Import to Stage. If you want to choose the file, so it's called blastoff.ai, and that'll be the name of it in the download folder, which is available to you. I'm going to click Open, and this window will pop up, the import options. You just want to ensure that you select all layers. So that's this checkbox at the very top. Go ahead and click that. That will carry all the layers over, and then you can just click Import. You can see that the design comes over as intended from Illustrator to Animate. I'll click my timeline, and you can see that a lot of the design is hanging off the canvas. So you can clip that to the canvas by clicking this icon up here, Clip Content Outside the Stage. Go ahead and click that, and you can see now it fits in the canvas nicely. Now, I'd like this ad to play out at 12 seconds in total, and I can set that at the very beginning before adding any animation. I'm just going to move this over to the side. I'm going to go to the 12-second mark in my timeline here, and so there it is. I'm going to click the first empty frame, hold my Shift key, and click the last empty frame, and then just press F5 on my keyboard as a shortcut. If you want to do the long form way of adding empty frames, just click on this icon here and you would choose Frame. Now that's different from Keyframe, which we'll use throughout this tutorial, and the shortcut for that will be F6, okay? So I'm just going to move my way back to the left-hand side here, and the first thing we want to do is start animating the title. So that's the unlimited internet in this design here. And so this is for a fictional telecom company, and it's to promote high-speed internet. So in this part, we'll animate the title here and then the details, and you can see they're marked in my layers panel as such. So details and title. And the first thing you want to do is convert each item here into a symbol. I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. And there's two ways of converting objects from an object to symbol. So you could just right click it and then convert to symbol. And what this allows you to do is animate it or add animation to it. The type will be movie clip. The only time we'll change that is if you're setting a button, and we'll do that later on in the tutorial. So let's go ahead and rename this to main title and just click OK. And while we're here, let's do the same for the details. I'm going to right click and choose Convert to Symbol. And let's rename this to Details. And then just click OK. So I'm going to click on the title layer, and you can see now the title is selected, and I'm going to move the playhead to the 1 second mark here and press F6. Now remember, that adds a keyframe and not an empty frame. So the transition from the first keyframe to the second will have an animation here. So let's go to the first keyframe again and click that. Make sure you click that first keyframe and then choose the free transform tool, which is the second tool in the tool panel here. And while holding Shift and Command, I guess that would be Shift Control on Windows, go ahead and increase the size of this. And I'm going to zoom out a bit. I'm just dragging it out at very large scale. I'm going to zoom out again a little bit here. And to zoom out is Command and then just scroll out. If you're on Windows, I believe that would be Alt and scroll out. So again, hold Shift Command and just drag out until you can't see it anymore, the text, okay? Now I know that's going to be very large. Perfect. So you can see if I just click out and then move the playhead from point A to point B, you can see it comes, it's not there and then it appears. Now, obviously we want a smooth transition though, so that comes in, it comes in at large scale and then lands in place. So just click anywhere between those two keyframes, right click, and let's add a Classic Tween. Now if I move my playhead here, watch what happens. It comes in and it lands nicely where it began, right? So there it is when we scaled it out, and there it is at its original form. Now if I click in here again, I can choose the type of ease. So that is the classic ease, which is nice. So if I just play that, if you want to preview it, just press return or enter on your keyboard, and there it is there. You can see you got a nice, let me zoom in again. You can see that you have a nice ease there, and then it just kind of lands, it snaps. So if you want to change that type of ease, click anywhere between those 2 points. Click Classic Ease. This can be found in the Frame tab in the Properties panel. Click Classic Ease, and you can see you have some options here. So if I wanted to do ease in, out, for instance, and let's try cubic, just double click that, and you can see the difference here if I play that now. So you get a nice ease in, out, and it comes in and it snaps nicely. There are some other easing effects there that you can play with to see which one works best for you, but that is how you would animate text coming out of the canvas and landing in its original spot. So next we'll go ahead and add an animation to the details. Now the details layer animation, that'll begin at the 1 second mark. So I'm going to click right there on the details layer, click on the 1 second frame, and let's add a keyframe. So F6 or click the insert keyframe, and then move the playhead to about the 45 frame mark and add another keyframe, and that would be at F6 again. And so let's go back to this first keyframe, and with your free transform or the selection tool, just hold Shift and drag this out of the canvas, out of the stage to the right until it's on the pasteboard here, okay? And again, if I go to the second point B there, you can see there it is again. So let's do the same thing. I'm going to click anywhere in between those two, right click, and this is a Classic Tween. Now, if I scrub through here, you can see there is that animation coming in. Now you notice that I started that at the 1 second mark, so I still have this original keyframe here. So if I move my playhead all the way to the beginning, it's still there. The original keyframe is there, so we'll have to delete that. You notice how our animation is set up there, it works fine. So to do that, just click the keyframe, hold your Shift key, and click the last empty frame there, and then just delete, okay? Now you can see that that's an empty part of the timeline now. You see there's nothing there on the details layer until we get to the Classic Tween that we just set up, okay? Next, let's add a fade in effect to the button. So if I click the button layer, you can see that that is selected now. Again, let's right click and convert to symbol. And because we're going to be adding a button action to this later on, let's choose the type from movie clip to button. And in the name, let's just call this Learn More Button. Okay. And then just click OK. Now here in the button layer, I want to click on let's move the playhead to the 2-second mark. Click that empty frame there and press F6. Move the playhead to the 75 frame mark. So that's the in between 2-second and 3-second mark. And again, F6. I'm going to move my playhead back to the 2-second mark and click that frame. And let's go up to Object here. And in the Object tab under the Properties panel, you see color effects. So just make sure that you drop that down. And then there's a drop down where you can add an alpha. So alpha is essentially opacity. Okay, so I can make this 0% and then move my playhead to the second keyframe. And you can add another alpha here and make sure that that is 100%. Okay, so if you go in between the two, it goes from 0 to 100%. Now it's not fading in yet. Again, just move your playhead and click anywhere in between, right click and add a Classic Tween. Now you can see if I scrub through that area there, we have a nice fade in effect. So we'll have we'll have to delete this first section here. So click on that first keyframe, hold your shift key, click the last one and simply hit delete on your keyboard. Let's see how that looks with the 3 animations. So I'm going to press return. There's the title details button. Let's look at it one more time. Return, title details button. So next we'll focus our attention on the rocket and the smoke underneath. So if I click rocket, there is the rocket object on the canvas. And if I click the smoke layer, there's the smoke here. So we want the rocket to launch. And as the rocket is launching into orbit, we want the smoke to appear as it's launching. So let's click on rocket first. And I want to move the playhead to the 3-second mark. Click on that. Well, make sure that you're on the right layer. So there we go, 3-second. Go ahead and add or insert a keyframe, F6, or click that icon there. And I want to right click. And in this case, for the first 3, we've created Classic Tweens. And so for this, we want a motion tween. And so let's move the playhead to the 5-second mark. And as it's set there, let's click on the rocket and while holding shift, just have it launch out of the frame completely. So you see there's a motion path there that the rocket follows and it's just a straight path right into outer space. So let's go ahead now and focus on the smoke now. So in this case, we want to add a keyframe here at the 3-second mark because we want the smoke to follow the rocket, right? So F6 at the 3-second mark. Let's move the playhead. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and add our motion tween. Okay, so go ahead and click that. So let's move the playhead to the 4-second mark. And in this case, let's move, here's an important tip. So this little white anchor here in the middle of the frame, before dragging, you want to ensure that that is at the bottom. So that's anchored to the bottom and we're only pulling this up from the top. So let's go ahead now and drag that upwards to about there is fine. And you can see that it automatically adds a new keyframe within that motion tween that we've created. So let's go ahead and move the playhead to the 5-second mark. And in this case, we just want that to be the same. So let's go ahead and add another keyframe by pressing F6. The only thing we're going to be doing here is having, so this first one here, let's click this. We want to make sure that this also has an alpha of 0. Okay. And let's go to the second one here. And in this case, we want this one to be 100. And then we want that smoke to disappear after the rocket launches. So let's go to Object here again, and let's make that back to 0. So let's see how that looks. If I go back here and press Return, there goes the rocket, and you can see that the smoke disappears after the rocket launches. We just have to delete these previous keyframes. So let's start with the rocket first. Click the first keyframe, hold your Shift key, click the last one and delete. Click the first keyframe in the smoke layer, click the last frame in that sequence. Let's do that again. Click the last frame in that sequence and just delete that as well. So you can see, let's see how everything looks so far. I like to test the work as I'm going along here. So return, title, details button, rocket launch, and there it goes the smoke. Now throughout this entire animation, I'd like for this moon to pan across the entire canvas. So come in from the left side and then exit from the right on a loop. Okay, so for this, we'll also add a motion tween. So I'm going to click on the moon layer here. You can see it's highlighted. And for this, I want to go right to the beginning, right? Because I want this to start at the beginning and go very slowly, and this will pan across throughout the entire 12 seconds. So again, I'm just going to click anywhere, click here, and then just create a motion tween. Okay, so but for this, I want to click on that first one and ensure that this is not on the canvas at all. So let's move it. Oh, so let's go ahead. We have to lock. Let's lock everything because you could be moving other objects when we don't want to. So let's click that again. Let's click moon. Make sure you're on that first keyframe and let's move that off. Okay, so we're shifting something. Let's go ahead and lock everything except for the moon layer, just so we know we're not shifting anything. Let's try that again. Click on that first keyframe and let's go ahead and move that right out of the canvas so you can see it there. Now for this, like I said, I want this to play out at the till the very end. So just move the playhead to the very last point. Now you don't have to create a keyframe because we're just going to move this off to the right all the way across the canvas and it'll create that frame for us. So again, hold Shift while you're dragging so we're keeping it straight. And then just move it out of the canvas to the right. And again, much like with the rocket, it creates a motion path that the moon will follow. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how that looks now. Again, just press return on your keyboard. There's everything else, but look at the moon just nicely panning across. And it's a good way of timing how long the animation will run, because once that moon is gone, the ad or the animated ad here will replay on a loop. Now as a last step, let's have this logo fade in at the very end. So I'm going to click on the logo layer. Let's unlock it. And the rocket and smoke, those play out as the last animations at the 5-second mark. I want the logo to come in fairly soon after. So I'm going to move my playhead to about the 160 frame mark here. Okay. And I'm going to make sure that I'm on the logo layer. Click that keyframe or that empty frame. We'll add a keyframe by pressing F6 on our keyboard. And let's move the playhead to about the 6-second mark and add or insert another keyframe. Now this last one, much like the Learn More button, will just come in as a fade in using a Classic Tween. So let's click on that first keyframe. One thing we forgot to do here, and I want to make sure I do it now, is convert this to a symbol, and let's call this logo, okay? And make sure that you change the type back to movie clip and click OK. Now I can add that secondary keyframe on the logo layer at the 6-second mark. Let's go back to that first keyframe, click it, go to Object, Color Effect, drop down, choose alpha, and you can see it automatically set to 0. Now again, if I play that out through, it'll appear at the 6-second mark. So now I can click anywhere in between those two keyframes, right click, and this will be a Classic Tween. And again, we get a nice fade in at the very end of the company logo. Let's go ahead and delete the previous portion of this these frames here. So click that first one, hold your shift key, click the last frame, and then just delete. So as a whole, now we have everything animated. Let's have a look here. So return, title, details button, rocket blast, smoke, and then there's the logo at the very end. And you can see that that will play through right to the end at 12 seconds. Now that our digital ad is complete, it's time to export it. And there are two ways I'll show you how to do that. The first is exporting as a video or media file. Let's go up to File, Export, and choose Video/Media. Now, because this is a small file, I'm just gonna double the resolution here. So I'm gonna click 336 and double that to 672, just so that the video quality is better to show you. And you wanna export the entire movie, and the format will be H.264, which will convert it in Adobe Encoder as an MP4. So once you have that, go ahead and click Export. Your Adobe Media Encoder will launch, and you'll get this prompt saying that your video is ready to be viewed, or it's been created successfully. So let's open that up. So here's the video here. I can go ahead and play it, and there's all the animation that we set up is maintained in this social media ready post here, and you can share that on any of your social media channels. The other export option for social media would be animated GIF. So go up to File and then choose Export again, and you can see Export Animated GIF. You'll see that the preview will appear, and you can play it to see how it would look. And you can see all the animation carries over into GIF format as well, and then you would just go ahead and click Save, and that would save to your computer as well. As an added bonus, I'd like to show you how to add an action to this Learn More button. So I'm going to click on the button layer here, and I'm going to unlock it, and then go ahead and double click to drive into that button selection. You see that takes you to an entirely different timeline with 4 options here, one being up, then over, down, and hit. We'll only focus on the up and down. So the up is basically how the button appears when nothing is happening, right? So I'm going to click on over and add a keyframe there. And so over is the hover state. So every time you hover over this button, you can change its appearance. So we'll do that as well. I'm going to zoom in here and double click. Because Learn More and that shape is grouped, you want to double click until you get to that color here. So right now it's white. Let's try to match it to something of this purple here, okay? So let's do something like this. You could choose from one of these preset colors or add your own. Something like that is fine for now, just so we can see how the the up and over states work. I could see that much like Illustrator, when you drive into the isolation modes, the same applies here. So just click this arrow until you get back to the button timeline here, okay? So you can see how that looks when it's in its original state, and then the hover state is that purple there. We're not going to fuss too much on the color. I just want to show you how that works. Great, now you can go back to scene 1. And now we can add the action to this, but before we do that, we've already converted it to a symbol, but we have to add an instance name to this. So if I click Object, see in this field here, instance name, let's just call this learn_btn, short for button, and then just press return. That allows us now to add the action of go to web page. So for this, let's go to Window, And let's choose actions. I'm just going to move this action window to the right here. And with this still selected, let's click on Add Using Wizard. Now you can see there are some options here. The one we want to focus on here, the action, is go to web page. So go ahead and click that and then click next. See, as a default, it says adobe.com, and that's fine. We'll leave that as is for now. Click next. And we want the trigger event to be on mouse click. And because we renamed that instance, you can see here it is, learn _ button. So that's what we want. And that's it. You can see that the code is added here in this window. And of course, if you wanted to change the website, you could do that here. Just go ahead and type in www.com, change it here, and that's it. Go ahead and click Finish and Add. Now, if you want to test that, just go to Control and choose Test. That'll open it in a web browser, which I'll bring over here. Let's go ahead and maximize that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and you can see that there is the button there, which will appear after the animation. And there's the hover state. And if I click it, it takes me to the Adobe website. So that's how you would add the button action to the button in this animation, this social media post. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to create a social media ad and export it as a video or GIF file, all using Adobe Animate. If you found it helpful, leave a like or comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with all my latest tutorial content. If you'd like to learn more about Adobe Animate, check out this playlist right up here. Until next time, take care and keep creating.